Activity 4. Simplify the following division, writing your answers in scientific notation. So we'll start from A. Okay, so A, we have 8 times 6 all over 4 times 10 raised to the power 3. So we are going to use the same logic we used before. So that will be 8 times 8 of us, which is collecting like term. So 8 over 4 times 10 raised to the power 6 over 10 raised to the power 4. So 8 divided by 4 is 2. 6 minus 4, use the law of indices, division law. So 6 minus 4, that is 2. So 2 times 10 raised to the power 2, and that is the correct answer. So let's take one more, B. 9 times 10 raised to the power minus 3 all over 3 times 10 raised to the power minus 1. So collect like terms. 9 over 3 times 10 raised to the power minus 3 all over 10 raised to the power minus 1. And then that will be 3 in 9 is 3 multiplied by 10 raised to the power minus 3 minus minus 1. Okay, so you know this is division law, that's minus, and then the one has minus. Minus times minus is plus. So we have 3 times 10 raised to the power minus 3 plus 1, and that will be 3 times 10 raised to the power minus 2. That's the final answer. So you pause the video and take this one as your classwork. So let's check what you got. So check your answer here. 2 in 4 is 2. 6 minus minus 2, so that's 6 plus 2, which is 8. So this is 2 times 10 raised to the power 8. So if that is what you got, that is very correct, and then you have 2 marks. So if you've been doing your classwork, you should have 8 marks now in this lesson. Activity 5. Use a calculator to find correct to 3 significant figures, the following products. So we are using a calculator here, but we can still use a freehand. So let's write it down. 4.7 times 10 raised to the power 5 times 8.5 times 10 raised to the power 7. So you collect like them as usual. That will be 4.7 times 8.5 times 10 raised to the power 5 times 10 raised to the power 7. Okay, so and then we use calculator to multiply 4.7 by 8.5, and the answer will be 39.95. 39.95 times 10 raised to the power 5 plus 7, that will be 12. Okay, so 39.95 is not in standard form. Changing it to standard form, we have 3.95 times 10 times 10 raised to the power 12, and then the final answer will be equals to 3.995 times 10 raised to the power 13, and that is the final answer. Okay, so let's take one more. Let's take B. Okay, 2.7 times 10 raised to the power minus 3 times 9.6 times 10 raised to the power 9. So this will be 2.7 times 9.6 times 10 raised to the power minus 3 times 10 raised to the power 9. And use calculator to multiply 2.7 by 9.6, and the answer is 25.92. So that will be 25.92 times 10 raised to the power minus 3 plus 9, that will be raised to the power 6. Write it in standard form, that will be 2.596 times 10 times 10 raised to the power 6, and that will be what? 2.596 times 10 raised to the power 7. So that is 10 raised to the power 7, guys, and that is the final answer. So you're going to pause the video and do C and D as your classwork. Okay, so we may not be able to do the correction, but if you you can check by calculator. Okay, activity 6. Okay, activity 6. If G equals to P plus Q squared, P plus Q all squared over R cubed, find G when P is 5.17 times 10 raised to the power minus 3, Q is 6.89 times 10 raised to the power minus 4, and R is equal to 4.73 times 10 raised to the power minus 5. So all we need to do is to write out what we have. Okay, first, so if if we write out what we have G, write down the formula, raised to power 2 all over r cube, and then you start substituting the value. P is 5.17 times 10 raised to power minus 3. Q is 6.89 times 10 raised to power minus 4. Okay, close bracket, all squared, all over, we have all over r cube. So that's 4.73 times 10 raised to power minus 5. Okay, so we're going to follow BODMAS here. We'll do the bracket first, and then we can simplify values. So bring the numbers together also by collecting like them. We have 5.17 times 6.89 times 10 raised to power minus 3 times 10 raised to power minus 4 squared. We cannot open the bracket yet until when we simplify very well. Okay, so it is not advisable to open the bracket. So for the denominator, we can open the bracket at the denominator. So this is raised to power 3, so we have 4.73 raised to power 3 times 10 raised to power minus 5 raised to power 3. So we can open the bracket at the denominator. Okay, so then we use calculator to multiply 5.17 by 6.89. So we have 5.17 times 6.89, and that will be 14.9513. So we have equals to 14.9513 times, then we use the law of indices to add the powers here. Minus 3 plus minus 4, that will be minus 7. 10 raised to power minus 7 all raised to power 2 all over. We also use calculator to simplify 4.7 raised to power 3. 4.7 raised to power 3, and the answer is 105.82. So that's 105.82 multiplied by 10 raised to power minus 5 times 3. You know, this is product law, right? Multiply the powers. Minus 5 times 3, that will be 10 raised to power minus 15, right? And then we can change the numbers to standard form before we expand, or as the case may be, we can do the expansion. So let's do the expansion. So we have 14.95 squared times 10 raised to power minus 7 squared all over 105.82 times 10 raised to power minus 15, and that will be, we'll do 14.95 squared. You can see I threw the other one away because they are irrelevant. 14.95 squared, that is equals to 223.50. 223.50 multiplied by, use product law here, minus 7 times 2, that will be minus 14 all over 105.82 multiplied by 10 raised to power minus 15. So we can now collect like terms as usual. 223.50 all over 105.82 times 10 raised to power minus 14, okay, all over 10 raised to power minus 15. So that is what we are going to have. And then if we simplify very well, we have 223.50 divided by 105.82, and that will give us 2.11. Okay, so that's approximately 2.11 times 10 raised to power minus 14 minus 15. Okay, and that will be 2.11 times 10 raised to power minus 14 plus 15. So that will be 2.11 times 10, and that is the final answer. Okay, that is the final answer. So this is how you can use a standard form to simplify problems. And this is the end of the lesson, guys. So hope you enjoyed how to use standard form. So basically, in this lesson, as a summary, okay, we explained that standard form can be defined as a times 10 raised to power n, where a is greater than or equals to 1 and less than 10, and n are both positive and negative integers. Okay, so we've seen different way of writing numbers in standard form and changing number from standard form to ordinary form. We've seen how to perform calculations involving standard form. And then when you're asked to give answers in standard form, you must make sure your final answer is in standard form. When you're calculating in standard form, make sure that you write your final answer in standard form. And when numbers involve approximation, make sure you use at least 2 decimal places approximation, or for more accuracy you can use 3 decimal places, and then you can give your final answer to 2 decimal places. So bye bye guys, see you in the next lesson.